Afternoon. It is an honor to be here and participate in this very important dialogue and to discuss human capability in the age where every conversation seems to be about AI and how AI will replace humans in many scenarios. Eleanor Roosevelt said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Dreams are rooted in a very unique and powerful gift we have as human beings called imagination. Everything we've ever created, everything we've ever built started with an idea in our head, with our imagination. And it is our curiosity to explore, to learn, that fuels and drives that powerful gift we have, our imagination. Today, if we listen to the news, it seems like our problems are growing in size and magnitude and numbers. And it may feel like it's easier to throw our hands up in the air and give up. But perhaps not. As an entrepreneur, I believe in the power of innovation. And as CEO of XPRIZE, I've seen how innovation directed to solve humanity's grand challenges can help us build the future we want to have. We just need to set clear vision, set clear targets, and create shared incentives to achieve them. While AI can be a force for good and a tool for good, we need human and our imagination in the loop to make that future come to reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ansari. To kick things off, we're going to give a quick question to frame this wonderful discussion. So, fairly snappy answers. The opening question to all our panelists is, what single breakthrough in innovation, technology, or education do you believe could most dramatically reshape our future for the better in the next decade? Your Excellency El Desouki, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. And first off, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start by thanking the organizers, His Excellency Minister of Education, El Banyan, for inviting me to be on this esteemed panel today. I am joining from my vacation, and what made this vacation a little bit unique for me was, other than the fact that I'm speaking during my time off, is that my kids were experimenting a little bit with AI. And during the vacation, my daughter wanted to build a spa. She's 10 years old. She asked ChatGPT what to do, how to do it, came up with a whole business plan. My son, who's 8, turned all of the photos from our vacation time into animated cartoons, something I think is very popular these days, until it froze, and it said you reached a limit, and you can't do it anymore. And he came to me and he asked me why. So I started explaining to him what's happening behind the scenes, and how each one of those cartoon images that he's generating consumes roughly the same energy of a 6-watt LED light bulb on for 1 hour in our homes. What's worse is it consumes roughly 3 to 6 liters of water, drinking water, fresh drinking water. That's what 2 of us would need to drink to stay healthy during an entire day. Although these numbers in energy consumption are getting better, the energy for 1 curie dropped by roughly 10 times compared to when it first started. It still takes roughly the electricity of 130 US households to train one of these models over 1 year of energy consumption. That's quite a lot. What's worse is that if we continue going this way, we'll consume globally the energy of countries like Germany or Sweden to keep feeding these systems, and the water of a country like Denmark per year to keep feeding these systems. This is quite alarming, and it's not really ideal, it's not efficient, it's not how things probably should be. If you would ask me where the next breakthrough would be coming from, it had to be related to biomimicry, related to how our brain works, related to using quantum. The fusion between quantum computing and AI systems, that's where the future will be. The AI quantum supremacy, where quantum technologies and AI solutions can develop cognitive abilities, perhaps even a consciousness one day. That's where I think there will be a shift in humankind.
Yeah, thank you for that excellent answer to the opening question. Ms. McGrath, please give us your take on that first question.
Thank you, Mark. And first of all, I'd just like to echo my fellow colleague here to say thank you for inviting us here. And it's a real privilege to be on this esteemed panel, but also to be here in the Kingdom. I think just to echo our fellow guest here's comments around where I see the opportunity. Obviously, generative AI presents huge opportunities. But alongside that is the focus on clean technology, right? And driving a greater focus on environmental sustainability alongside technology. I think we're going to see huge leapfrog opportunities in terms of areas of healthcare. I just look alone in terms of MRI imaging, X-ray imaging, the opportunity to create greater accuracy, the speed to market in terms of those insights is enormous. So I'm hugely excited about what Gen AI can do, coupled with the focus on clean technology.
Good answer. Mr. Midha.
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate His Excellency Al-Banyan and other organizers for this wonderful conference. In terms of your answers to what is single biggest technology breakthrough or technology outcome, I think there are 5 forces coming together. And that's why it's very hard to manage just at one only. So first and foremost is we have talked all morning AI, automation, and autonomous system. That's going to continue. You have energy transition. I mean, that's a huge scenario that if you, and I would argue if you solve for energy, you in some ways solve for the water too, assuming no other major challenges come through beyond what we know. Third is supply chain resilience. Geopolitical issues are forcing us to rethink the supply chain end to end. Fourth is the new materials are needed. It's not just a traditional product, and this requires a completely new scenario where we can apply AI to create new materials to solve the existing problems. And finally, fifth and final one is the human capital. The speed at which we can transform is still linear for human systems. And the systems we're dealing with are exponential. So there is a mismatch in terms of our ability to deal and harness and control and manage for the betterment of the humanity. That's the fundamental frame that I look at on behalf of Alat, on behalf of Kingdom. And I'm excited that we still can do something about it to manage it. But if we wait for too long, I think it's going to get harder and harder.
Yeah, well answered. Dr. Ansari, last but not least, the single breakthrough that you believe could most dramatically reshape our future for the better in the next decade? Could be innovation, tech, or education.
I'll cheat and maybe tell you 2 that I believe are important. One, and the foremost that will have a huge role in everything else is abundant, affordable, equitable energy. Yeah. This is fundamental to every breakthrough. As we heard, without the energy, we can't develop AIs further. So that's number 1 for me. The second one is, as we are at the cusp of actually being able to have a sustainable presence in space, I think we need to look at Earth ecosystem, not just below the atmosphere, but go beyond that and understand that we're part of the solar system and be able to take advantage of moving certain technologies, manufacturing, and capabilities to our orbit, where it will help us sustain life on Earth in a much better way.
By the way, when Dr. Ansari talks about space, she's not just making it up. She's actually been there. She was the first female private space explorer. In 2006, she embarked on an 11-day space exploration to the International Space Station. Is it as vivid as it was? Almost definitely worthy of a clap.
Thank you.
Is it as vivid as it was almost 20 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. It never changes once you have this opportunity to see our beautiful planet from up there. That image never escapes you, and it drives your vision on how you want to preserve the beauty.
Do you dream about space? Do you have
every
funny
night.
dreams? Do you?
And every time I'm depressed, I remember that we're very tiny species on a tiny planet in billions of galaxies out there.
Yes, yes. Well said. I'm glad you shared that with us. Now, we're going to move on to the role of technology and innovation in solving global challenges. Your Excellency, Desouki, what are the biggest challenges preventing innovation from having a faster, more scalable impact on global challenges?
Thank you, Mark. I would say access to funding would be the biggest obstacle. Innovation is basically fueled by curiosity-driven research, which is basic science, which has a very long-term impact, and it's difficult to attract private funding to something that doesn't generate an immediate impact. Roughly 70% of private investors that invest in emerging technologies want to see short-term returns. And more than 60% of innovation projects fail to raise funding to stay sustainable. Those challenges are global, and without proper collaboration, we're not going to see dissemination of innovation or creativity happening across borders. So in the kingdom, His Royal Highness Prime Minister Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the head of the Innovation Committee, has announced on June 30th, 2022, an innovation policy for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where he set an ambition to increase our percentage of GDP spend on R&D for both public and private sector up to 2.5% by 2040. That is to make sure that we have the government role in making sure that basic science is sustainable, continue, but also the link to the private sector to make sure that lab to market continues very well. And there the government plays a very big role in making sure that we can bridge the gap between basic science and industry going through applied and labs such as the ones that I manage at Caxt.
Yeah. Ms. McGrath, I know that you're very passionate, as is Dell, about using technology for social good. So how do we use and ensure that innovation isn't just technologically driven, but also ethically and socially responsible?
Thanks, Mark. I think all organizations, not just technology companies, have an obligation to make sure we live up to ethical standards. I think Dell is a founder-led organization. Michael Dell is still heavily involved in our business. And so we've a major focus around our supply chain being sustainable, about being ethical. That also is reached out into our partner ecosystem as well to make sure they mirror that. And then our customer base, right? We want to work with clients and customers that have the same values as we have, right? And I think in this changing landscape right now, I think it's more important than ever that we dig deep and look at kind of how do we adhere and build organizations, found organizations. I was just listening to, and we're talking to our Excellency earlier on, and talking about the role of startups and making sure we set them up for success so that they've got the right ethical standards, the right governance, and the right support from the get-go, right, with the right level of investment. So I actually think it's on everybody. Dell's a major player on this. It's set from our founder, who's heavily involved in the business, but it reaches far beyond us into our client ecosystem and into the startups that are in the room today, making sure that you're all set up for success with the right guidance, the right investment, and the right leaders behind that as well.
Yeah, thank you. You're a leader. Your company's a leader, Mr. Midha, in advanced manufacturing and AI. How would you say emerging technologies are reshaping industries and making them, to bring up the S word again, more sustainable and efficient?
So I want you to imagine that this year we're opening up a robotics factory right here in Riyadh that is 100% sustainable, that is creating a autonomous advanced manufacturing ecosystem here where each of these robots can be produced in lights out factory. And this is such an advanced technology that there is so much use of this for us to transform supply chain as well as manufacturing and service industry and data centers across the world. But think about the context, the leadership that Kingdom is taking in this, and Alat is, of course, enabling that, is basically to say, we will invest $266 billion in energy transition and infrastructure. We are going to make sure 50% of energy comes from clean energy sources by 2030 and carbon neutral and carbon zero by 2060. This kind of conference is saying we need to develop talent for the new kind of industry. This is not sort of the traditional manufacturing industry. For you to work in any of these plants, these are highly sophisticated plants, it requires you to have robotics engineering, you need to have problem-solving skills, you need to have semiconductor skills, you need to have other things that go in adjacent system. How do you plan these things? So, and how do you extend them? And that's what's happening here. So your question about how advanced manufacturing can help us build sustainability, I would say instead of thinking one versus the other, efficiency versus sustainability, why not leapfrog? Why not do both at the same time? And we're showcasing that as an example. You don't have to make a choice. You can actually accomplish both talent, sustainability, efficiency, and leapfrog outcome from technology and solution perspective.
Yeah, well said. Dr. Ansari, elaborate a bit more about incentive competitions. Many of our audience might not be aware, if we lift the bonnet. How are incentive competitions like XPRIZE accelerating breakthrough innovations to tackle all these big issues we're discussing here, climate change, healthcare, and education?
Our focus is on problems where traditional market forces, traditional capital markets have not been able to solve the problem. And sometimes the reason is complexity of the problem. Maybe it's a multidimensional problem that requires several sectors to work together. It may be that the risks are high, so we're only doing incremental change, and sometimes incremental change does not work in a timeline we have to address, for example, climate change. So that's when XPRIZE and our incentive competitions really play a huge role in setting the bar high. We call it audacious but achievable. And we pick very specific, measurable targets where the solutions have to really achieve and demonstrate in order to win the prize. So it forces the innovators to focus on specifically building those capabilities, and also forces them to leapfrog traditional incremental model, because traditional market forces also focuses on risk and profitability in the short term, and XPRIZE takes a long-term view in solving these problems. So that's why the incentives work in these very specific areas and can really unlock the potential of innovation and solve these problems for good. And over 30 years, we've launched now 30 prizes and $500 million in prize purses, and we've seen how that money is seed capital that leverages investment from outside to come in and then builds new markets.
Yeah. Amazing stats. I love stats, and those stats are mind-boggling. I want to move on to collaboration and disciplinary thinking. Your Excellency El Desouki, what roles do governments and research institutions play in fostering innovation ecosystems, and how would you say they can work more effectively with the private sector?
Thank you, Mark. So the role of government is always and forever lasting, and when it comes to R&D, we can borrow from the space sector. Most innovations came as spillovers from inventions for the space missions. This is always going to continue, even if there's a myth that the private sector is developing and moving forward. To push futuristic technologies, government needs to continue upskilling and training and investing in talent, but making it also very easy for spillover to happen from lab to market. And that's the biggest challenge in many countries. So in the Kingdom, the Research, Development and Innovation Committee, led by His Royal Highness, worked on an innovation strategy that builds on the strength that Saudi Arabia has in the research community. Roughly 40,000 researchers today that are doing very well in terms of creating top quality scientific articles and filing for patents, but could do a little bit better in terms of translating lab to market activities for innovation, especially that most of them were not financially driven. They don't think about financial returns, and this is common around the world. Scientists do it because they're curious to pushing the boundaries of science. So in Saudi Arabia, the innovation strategy worked on bringing the private sector closer to the lab and making sure that the transition is easier. And this is very difficult to do around the world. One thing we've done in my organization, King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, is to play a better role of opening up our applied research facilities that are production level to the investor community, to the private sector, to scale up technologies that were invented in basic science from universities all the way through the applied level to something that's ready for an investor to invest in. So our labs today, by Council of Ministers decree, provide open access to the research community and to the private sector. Our main campus in Riyadh has been converted into a science park that allows for companies to sit walking distance from the labs. But the most exciting element we added was to serve the deep tech community of entrepreneurs, building an accelerator and incubator called The Garage in CAX that's walking distance from 100 labs, that converted an old parking building that used to fit 480 cars to a space that can incubate up to 300 companies. And now we see deep tech companies from around the world coming to Riyadh, sitting walking distance from those labs, working with our 3,000 scientists, taking technologies, whether from the Saudi scientific community or from around the world, to the Saudi market, eventually scaling up abroad. We've seen huge impact in less than 2 years of roughly 7,500 jobs being created from this accelerator, with more of a valuation of roughly $2 billion combined for the companies that are there.
Yeah. I know, Ms. McGrath, you're also giving away all her passions. Cross-collaboration, partnerships. How can we use these types of collaborations, Ms. McGrath, to drive systemic change?
Thank you, Mark. I'm just so excited by what you've just shared with me beforehand as well. I think there's so much opportunity around the collaboration, but I actually think collaboration doesn't just happen on its own. You actually need to cultivate it, right? And it's finding the right partners. It's about being open-minded. I think in the tech space in particular, we need to find partners that are open to open standards, right? Particularly around AI. But I also think you need partners that are willing to go the extra mile to build out and further innovate, because we can put two parties in a room together, two large organizations, or a startup and a small organization or a large organization, and expect them to connect and naturally collaborate. It doesn't happen that easily, right? We need to put the ingredients in. That's why I'm so excited by what you're doing and what you're driving, because I think truly it's phenomenal to see the growth and the appetite for change, the appetite to innovate here. So I think collaboration, this is the time, Mark, for the ecosystem. It's never happened like this before, both from a technology, a societal perspective, public, private initiatives, startups with large organizations, funding organizations. And I think we really need to leverage that. But I think it's about having the right mindset. So open standards, I think the willingness to innovate further, go the extra mile, and then to continue to refine and build it out on the same principles, right? So having that underlying value set about trying to do the right thing, tech for good, having the right mindset about ethics is really important too. But this is the age of the ecosystem, and we've got to capitalize on it. And it actually means bringing unlikely parties together. Sometimes it's not always obvious what the competencies of one organization is over another, and actually trying to work that through and say, look, we can actually drive a single outcome here to innovate and create something phenomenal for this region. So I think it really is a fascinating time, and we all want to be part of it.
Yeah, we certainly do. And you, Mr. Midha, you integrate tech with sustainability. Give us an example of a cross-disciplinary approach that could redefine industries.
So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of challenges and opportunity. Under the leadership of His Royal Highness Crown Prince, we have Vision 2030 announced, which gives us the blueprint for economic diversification, but innovation and ability to leapfrog. We're not making choices, let's do this versus that. I gave you an example of a robotic factory that actually accomplishes multiple of these things: future-ready workforce, future-ready technology, an advanced manufacturing facility, sustainability given, and certainly a showcase for what is possible right here in the kingdom. Now, coming back to it, if you look at AI market being a $2 trillion market by 2030, you look at the Industry 4.0, $328 billion market, 1 billion people have to be reskilled in next 7 years. This is, at the same time, you have to, in some cultures, you say you have to chew the gum and walk at the same time. You can't really say, let's stop the innovation because it disrupts something. You have to create the new outcome and take them head on, because that's the only way you can create the future. That is the only way you can lead and create a prosperous society, which is what the kingdom is committed to doing. So in response to you, we have examples of that we talked about, the robotics factory, Sapphire. We have example of Lenovo that will also be 100% carbon neutral factory. So the more we show these examples, the more we create and train people to lead these breakthrough outcomes, the more we create the future. I will close out with this. We can choose to say it needs more training. We need apprenticeship. We need a ability to partner and leadership from the government to create industry, to create those apprenticeship. And if we don't lead it right, then we end up scenario where people are trained, they're spending a lot of time in the universities, but yet there is no outcome on the other end.
Dr. Ansari, you've got a minute and a half, a lot of pressure. How can organizations cultivate a culture that encourages collaboration across traditional boundaries to drive meaningful progress?
I think it's important to identify shared incentives. Collaboration only works if every party involved can see the advantage of the outcome of that collaboration. So a lot of our problems today are complex problems. They're not one technology or one approach that solves it. An example, we had the wildfires in California recently that has been a problem across the globe. And we have technologies out there that you would think, why are we suffering from wildfires now? Why can't we avoid destructive fires? But we had to actually launch this competition, wildfire competition, where we're bringing technologies that involves AI, imaging and sensing, satellite technologies, and ground-based technologies that work collaboratively together and can detect fires, identify if they're destructive fires, and then be able to deploy technologies to put them out within 10 minutes. And pieces of these technologies were being developed independently in different companies, different parts, and only because of the price, they had to come together and work together to provide a comprehensive solution to the marketplace. And they're all benefiting from this because now, because it's comprehensive, there are customers who want to buy this, they are going to win the competition, and we're definitely solving a major challenge in the world.
You're good at looking at the clock. Well done.
Exactly.
I want to give a massive round of applause to our fantastic panelists. Thank you so much.